Love does not enter Scum's wish as a feeling. It enters as a solution. Hanabi Yasuraoka. S. Life is not visibly broken. There is no singular trauma, no dramatic loneliness, no moment where the world collapses around her. That is precisely the problem. Her days are functional school passes. Conversations happen. People see her. Teachers praise her. Classmates include her. Nothing is missing in a way that can be pointed to, and yet something essential never arrives. Hanabi's loneliness is quiet, the kind that doesn't announce itself with pain, but with absence. An emotional starvation that never sharpens enough to scream. It simply lingers, dull and persistent, like hunger, mistaken for normalcy. She does not feel unwanted, she feels unnecessary. So when love appears, she does not question it. She accepts it the way a dehydrated body accepts salt water, aware it is wrong, but too desperate to refuse. Mujiawaya is the same. Not broken, not abused, not visibly wounded, just empty in the exact same way. They do not collide dramatically. They do not spark. They recognize each other, and recognition, in a lonely world, feels dangerously close to intimacy. Both of them are already in love, but not with each other. Their desires point upward, toward authority figures who can never return them. Teachers, adults, people safely unreachable, people who demand nothing back. Love objects designed to remain fantasies forever. It is not coincidence. Unreachable love is safe love. It cannot reject you, because it never engages you. It cannot demand vulnerability, because it never becomes real. Hanabi and Muji are not in love with people. They are in love with the idea of wanting something without consequence. So, when they come together, it is not romance that forms. It is logistics, an agreement. They do not pretend otherwise. We are using each other. It is said plainly, almost kindly, as if honesty alone can cleanse what follows. This is where Scum's wish quietly unsettles you, because nothing about this arrangement is hidden. There is no deception, no manipulation. They know exactly what they are doing, and that makes it worse. They create rules instead of trust, boundaries instead of intimacy, conditions instead of commitment. This will last until something better comes along. This will end when one of us is chosen elsewhere. This is temporary. This is safe. The relationship begins already planning its own erasure. And for a moment, it works. Physical closeness arrives quickly, but without heat. Touch does not express desire. It suppresses pain. Sex exists, but tenderness does not. Bodies connect, while identities remain separate. They hold each other the way one holds a pillow at night. Not to connect, but to quiet the noise. This is not passion. It is anesthesia. The remarkable thing is how functional it feels. No jealousy, no expectations, no future. They do not argue because nothing is being built. They do not fear loss because nothing is being promised. This is love stripped of risk. And that is the horror seed. Because risk is where growth lives. Risk is where truth forms. Risk is where love stops being a placeholder and starts becoming real. By removing risk, they remove change. The relationship does not demand honesty, only maintenance. It does not demand vulnerability, only availability. It does not demand growth, only compliance. Hanabi mistakes comfort for healing. The pain dulls. The ache softens. The days become manageable. But the emptiness does not leave. It simply stops hurting enough to notice. And that is how damage settles in. Not with violence, but with relief. Muji's presence gives her something to hold on to. Proof that she is wanted, if only conditionally. Proof that she matters, if only temporarily. She does not call it love, but she treats it like oxygen. The more time passes, the more the arrangement reveals its true shape, because love that avoids pain also avoids truth. They do not ask questions that could destabilize the agreement. They do not confess thoughts that might change the rules. They do not express needs that could make them inconvenient. They curate themselves into something consumable. Hanabi learns how to be useful. Useful is easy. Useful is wanted. Useful does not get abandoned, and usefulness begins to feel terrifyingly close to belonging. That is when the shift happens quietly. She notices that being held no longer makes her feel warmer. only less alone. She notices that intimacy no longer excites her. It pacifies her. She notices that the idea of losing this arrangement scares her, not because she loves Mu, but because she fears returning to the emptiness beneath it. This is not love filling a void. This is love covering one. The relationship works too well. No jealousy means no investment. No expectations means no accountability. No future means no consequence, which also means no growth, no vulnerability, no truth. Hanabi begins to sense it before she understands it. A subtle dread, a quiet nausea, the realization that nothing in this relationship is moving forward, and neither is she. She is not becoming more whole. She is becoming more efficient at being incomplete. And then the thought arrives, uninvited and undeniable. She is not loved. She is useful. And usefulness feels close enough to belonging that it becomes addictive. That is where Act I ends. Not with heartbreak, not with betrayal, but with the most dangerous realization in Scum's wish, that love does not have to hurt to damage you. Sometimes the most corrosive relationships are the ones that function perfectly, because they teach you how to survive without ever asking you to live. The most dangerous part of Hanabi and Muji's relationship is not that it deepens. It's that nothing explodes, nothing collapses. Instead, the arrangement grows more detailed, more refined, more practiced. They learn each other's schedules. They learn when to text. They learn how to touch without asking questions. The relationship does not grow emotionally. It grows structurally. It becomes efficient. And efficiency is where intimacy begins to rot. Sex, at first, was a solution. A way to dull longing. A way to quiet the ache of wanting someone who would never choose them. Now it becomes something else. Validation. Being desired becomes proof of existence. Not being known, being wanted. Hanabi starts to measure herself by reaction instead of connection. By how easily someone reaches for her, by how quickly she can be consumed. She does not crave closeness anymore. She craves confirmation. Every touch becomes evidence. I am here. I am usable. I matter. And slowly, without realizing it, she begins to offer herself preemptively. Before she can be abandoned, before she can be replaced, before anyone can decide she is unnecessary. If she gives first, rejection loses its power. This is how disposability becomes internalized. Hanabi learns that pain is manageable when it is expected, that disappointment hurts less when it is invited. She begins to rehearse her own erasure. Muji watches this and does not stop it, because something is happening to him as well. Where Hanabi leans inward, Mugi retreats. He becomes calm, controlled, detached. And he mistakes that for maturity. He tells himself he is being honest, that this arrangement is cleaner than love, that emotions complicate things, and he has chosen clarity. But clarity without vulnerability is not wisdom. It is insulation. Muji's distance hardens into superiority. He does not suffer as visibly as Hanabi. He does not beg. He does not break first. And that becomes his identity. He confuses control with strength, emotional restraint with moral elevation. He watches pain without flinching and believes that makes him above it. But detachment is not absence of damage. It is damage that has learned how to hide. Their dynamic shifts subtly. Sex is no longer mutual anesthesia, it becomes transaction. Who needs this more? Who gives more? Who can endure longer without asking for something real? Comparison replaces desire. Not do I want you, but who wants less? Because wanting less feels like winning. This is where outside figures begin to rot what little balance remains. Akane Minagawa does not enter the story like a villain. She enters like a mirror. She is affection perfected into a weapon. Where Hanabi offers herself to avoid rejection, Akane offers affection to provoke it. Where Hanabi seeks validation, Akane distributes it strategically. Akane does not love to connect. She loves to dominate. She proves something essential to this world. Love does not have to be sincere to be effective. It only has to be convincing. And Muji is drawn to her, not because she offers warmth, but because she offers power. With Akane, affection becomes leverage. Attention becomes currency. Rejection becomes a controlled outcome. She shows him a version of love where vulnerability is optional and cruelty is rewarded, and something in him recognizes it. Meanwhile, Hanabi, she watches how easily affection can be taken away, how casually it can be reassigned, how love can be used without ever being felt. And instead of leaving, she adapts. She lowers her expectations. She sharpens her endurance. She tells herself this is what maturity looks like, that wanting less is strength, that surviving disappointment means growth. But love is no longer numbing pain. It is rewarding it. The more she endures, the more legitimate the relationship feels. The more she sacrifices, the more invested she becomes. Suffering becomes proof of sincerity. If it hurts, it must mean something. If it costs her dignity, it must be real. This is the cruel logic that takes root. They are no longer escaping loneliness, they are maintaining damage. Each choice reinforces the next. Each compromise makes the following one easier. Hanabi becomes someone who waits without asking, who gives without expecting, who smiles through erosion. Ryuji becomes someone who observes without intervening, who rationalizes without feeling, who confuses emotional absence with stability. Neither of them is happy, but both of them are functional, and functionality becomes the enemy of change. The arrangement no longer feels temporary. It feels normalized. This is where identity begins to shift. Hanabi does not ask what she wants anymore. She asks what she can endure. Ryuji does not ask who he is becoming. He asks how little he needs to feel. And then, the realization arrives. Quiet. Unavoidable. They simply learned the wrong lessons at the wrong time. They learned that love can exist without kindness, that intimacy can occur without safety, that consent does not equal care. They learned how to endure affection without being held, and by the time they recognized the cost, the damage was already integrated into who they were becoming. Love does not fail them. Love appears imperfect, risky, real. They failed to recognize it in time. And that is the quiet horror of Scum's wish. Not that love ends, but that it never truly begins, that it is replaced by something easier, something quieter, something that hurts less in the moment and destroys more over time. The story closes without redemption arcs or dramatic confessions. Only awareness, only memory. Only the lingering discomfort of recognizing pieces of yourself in their choices. Because sometimes the most disturbing love stories are not about obsession or violence, they are about what happens when people settle for affection that asks nothing. And in doing so, slowly lose the ability to feel anything at all. If this story unsettled you, it's because it wasn't meant to comfort. If you've ever stayed somewhere because leaving felt harder than eroding, if you've ever mistaken being wanted for being valued, then this story wasn't just fiction. Subscribe for more anime stories where love isn't idealized, it's examined. And leave a comment if this one lingered longer than you expected. Some stories don't break your heart. They hollow it out quietly. And those are the ones that stay with you.